Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the South Sudan Women Intellectuals Forum. I'm happy to be the moderator for this show. This is the 27th show being hosted by South Sudan Women Intellectuals. Our topic for this session is to do with the importance of networks for future opportunities for South Sudanese. And I'm happy to be the moderator, as I mentioned. I thank the panel members who have agreed to be part of our show today. And on the panel, we have first Ms. Betty Otho. Ms. Betty Otho is a human resource professional with over 8 years experience. She is a passionate advocate for diversity and inclusion. She's also an advocate for minority women and youth empowerment. She is a co-founder of DIFTAL, a social enterprise that connects organizations who are committed to provide their cultural diversity and inclusion efforts to culturally and linguistically diverse job seekers. Betty recently moved from Melbourne, Australia to London to pursue global career opportunities over there. You're most welcome, Ms. Betty Otho. The next panelist with us today is Ms. Adeng Lake. Adeng is the founder of Opportunities for South Sudanese Initiative and is currently employed with the African Union Commission. She has been an employee of the union for the past 3 years. She previously advocated for women's rights in Pibor, Juba, and Wau, and youth and peace building advocate with Horn of Africa Leadership and Learning for Action. She is also a member of MINDS, that is Mandela Institute for Development Studies, and a former human rights defender trained by Frontline Defenders. You're most welcome, Ms. Adeng Lake. Our third panelist is Ms. Margaret Tabo Cons. You're welcome. Margaret holds a master's degree in emergency and development practice from Oxford Brookes University from the UK. She holds a bachelor's degree in education from Makerere University in Uganda. She is also a recipient of the prestigious US government Mandela Washington Fellowship for Young African Leaders, YALI, a flagship initiative of former President Barack Obama. She has played a very critical role in humanitarian service and was one of the national staff who was part of the establishment of the first POCs, the protection of civilian sites in the premises of the United Nations mission in South Sudan across the country when war broke out in South Sudan. She has served on a number of boards of inquiries set by the UNMISS Special Representative of the United Nations Secretary General. As a strong believer that human capital development is critical to a development of a nation, she has dedicated herself to serve on United World College South Sudan National Committee, which is a part of a global education movement, where so far she has supported over 39 young South Sudanese to access college with world-class institutions globally. Ms. Margaret, in addition to her role, founded Mentor a Girl initiative in 2015 to realize her passion for education of young people, especially girls. She is an entrepreneur, and besides her car boot clothing business, as she mentions, she used her little savings to start a microfinancing project for startups and mainly existing small businesses, giving out personal loans. You're most welcome, Ms. Margaret Tabo. Our next panelist is Ms. Mihipai Flora Zimama. Ms. Flora is a bachelor's degree holder in business management from Edith Cowan University in Australia. She has worked in business retail since 2002 and up to 2016. She has also worked as a project support person for Access in Logan Business, where she was actively involved in migrant employment services. Flora is a mother of 3 beautiful girls. You're most welcome, Ms. Mihipai Zimama. Our last panelist is Dr. Joy Luba. Dr. Joy Luba is a medical doctor and a public health specialist currently working with WHO, focusing on strengthening and supporting the COVID-19 outbreak response in South Sudan. She holds a master's in public health from London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine and has over 12 years of work experience in both public health and clinical practice. Prior to working with WHO, she worked with UNICEF, Midair Al-Sabah Hospital, and Kijabe Hospital in Kenya. So she has a vast experience both within government, NGOs, and the UN. She has had to work and engage multiple stakeholders at both country, regional, and global levels, particularly on public health front. She has established a critical network and collaborating, particularly on public health front with stakeholders to ensure effective delivery of health services. So having introduced the panelists, I think it's time for me to give more attention to our topic of discussion for today, which is on networking. As we talk on networking, it's important just to give a brief highlight on what we mean by networking. My understanding is that networking is the exchange of information and ideas among people with common profession or special interests, usually in an informal setting. It can begin from a single point of common ground, and this allows access to the individuals to opportunities that you might not be able to find on your own. But being part of the network, you have access to those opportunities. Your network has the potential to provide you with insight into different fields. As we have seen, we have different experiences being brought here, people from the human resource background, from youth advocacy, health background, business background. All of this can only happen as a result of networking. Information on what potential employers look for and advice on how you can also improve professionally. Networks are relational organizational forms that involve interconnected individuals. They're very valuable because they are a way by which we are able to share tacit knowledge and enable adaptation and implementation at all contexts, be it local or the general context. So there are many things that we can benefit from networking, and this can help us not only in accessing job opportunities, but also getting inside connections within the institutions that we are in, as well as for others, also helping you avail or access things to do with study. So it helps you to get all the research on things that can help you forward your interests. To begin with, Dr. Joy Luba, sorry, I said Ms. Joy Luba, Dr. Joy Luba. In the field of public health, we know for a fact that networking plays a very, very critical role, specifically in the promotion of evidence-informed decision-making, knowledge management, and even building capacity in public health. So my question to you, my first question is, why is networking important in the public health sector? Over to you, Dr. Joy.
Thank you very much, Angel. I think this is a very important and timely topic of discussion. And this platform itself is an example of networking and bringing us from different corners of the world, from diverse backgrounds, to have a common goal of reaching out to women and to the communities at large. In the public health field, networking is really important. One, just looking at health in itself, the definition of health. health is not just absence of disease, it's a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. And that fact itself then tells you that you need to be able to collaborate beyond what the layman understands as health. I mean, health to the layman may just be absence of disease, but when we see the broad perspective of what health is, then it's critical then that you establish those relationships and those networks with people within the health sector and beyond the health sector. So in the field of public health, networking is important because public health really looks at analyzing determinants of health. And we realize that there are very many determinants of health. Determinants of health could be your culture, it could be gender, it could be your race, it could be your income and employment status. So it's quite diverse. And because of that, to be able to achieve the goals of public health, which is to prevent disease, to improve quality of life, then it is important to network with the actors who are responsible for those diverse elements that we would analyze in the context of public health. And so networking in public health is important because without it, we cannot achieve the goals of public health, which is looking at all the determinants of health. Secondly, health goes beyond, health touches other sectors. So if we need to achieve, for instance, let's just take a simple example like the COVID pandemic. Yes, it is a health issue, but definitely we clearly know that we cannot achieve our goals unless we network across the sector of health itself. We have to network with the private sector. We've seen that there's been a lot of engagement of the private sector in this response to the COVID-19. We've even seen companies that design, clothes wear, focusing now on production of masks, production of personal protective equipment. And that can only be possible through networking. So health goes beyond just absence of disease. It has a number of factors. And because of that, we need to network across all sectors of society and address all elements and all determinants of health. That's why it's important to network in public health. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Joy Luba, for that elaborate explanation, which I believe answered my question very succinctly. Now, coming to personal branding, and I would like to direct this question to Ms. Flora Mihipai. Why is networking important in building a personal brand? Maybe you can also elaborate that by giving us some tips on how we can do that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Agnes, for allowing me to speak on this wonderful panel. And I'm so privileged to be among such a wonderful, diverse group of educated women. So I think already Dr. Luba has already explained a lot to do with networking and stuff like that. So what I will do just to explain what branding is. So your brand basically is what you want to show people, what you stand for. For my case, when I look at branding, it's like a unique identification of who you are, who you represent, what you stand for, what makes you different from other people. So how it's linked to networking and how networking can build your brand is basically when you want to associate yourself with people, you have to ask yourself, why am I associating myself with those people? What do I benefit from them? What do I contribute to them? What can I learn from them? And then how can I use that to give back to society and to improve myself? So this is where the idea of branding comes in. So when you're looking at your brand, for example, if you stand for advocacy, especially I do stand highly for advocating for women education, because a lot of women never had the opportunities to study, to learn. A lot of them went through a lot of things. So every time I tell people it's never too late to learn. You can still learn even if you have gone way past your 30s, 40s. You still have the time to learn. Learning never ends. So it's a passion I'm about. So when I'm showing my brand, for example, and sorry that I'm going to use myself, it's easier when I use myself. You want to stand for education. So when you're standing for education, you have to be around people who are similar minds, people who are standing for education. You have to be around organizations that are standing for that as well. You have to also show that you like learning by going to have continuous learning opportunities. You go to seminars, you build yourself as an educator or somebody who stands for education. So how networking and branding links together is that when you go to those associations, like Joy was saying, you're building a bigger social and professional cycle. So that's going to help your brand. That's going to help you become better. That's going to help you to become to achieve the things you want to achieve, but it's also going to help you to stand for the things that you want people to know. Then the other thing is with networking, you have access to things. You have access to resources, you have access to learning facilities, you have access to human resources, people who know things that you don't know. You have access to that in your networking. So as a result, by networking with those people socially, you begin to build yourself into the element that you want to be, and into the element that you want to show the world, and the element that you want to help in the world. So the other thing also about networking I find is it helps you to broaden your knowledge. So, like I said before, I joined this panel simply because I just want to be among South Sudanese women. That's the first thing. So, you broaden your knowledge, you meet new people, you learn new things through networking. And whatever you learn, you take it back and slowly incorporate it into your brand. You become that thing that you want people to see you. So eventually people will say, look, Mhipa is part of this association, so it's already branding into my brand. So it helps with your networking, your opportunities, and also things to do with career advancement. you know if you build yourself through good networks, you will have your career advancements, you will learn new things, you will have opportunities. So that's one of the things. And the other thing is to broadening knowledge. You learn more through your networks, and all those things come back to your branding. A brand is just like who you are, your unique self. That's what I look at it, your unique self, and how you portray yourself. And the thing about branding is you cannot fake it. I'm sorry to be very simple, you cannot fake your brand. You are born in a certain way, and then your experiences, your learning, your everything you have in your life, as you grow, as you work, as you expand, as you network, continues to build your brand. And that's what people see. So I don't know if that answers. So networking and branding are completely entwined together. They represent, the brand will learn from the networking, and the networking will show, brand will show who you are, and your networking will help your brand. So that's simply how I perceive it.
Thank you, Flora. And there's a point I would like to revisit maybe later in relation to how we can cash into that aspect, how we can source funding through our networking. But that is for later. For now, I would move on to Miss Betty Otto, and this is of a big interest to me as a human resource specialist. I think networking is a very important part of job search. And sometimes a big percentage of jobs might not appear outside there. These might be hidden, as they would call them, because they're not advertised in the formal media. But when you have the right networks, you would be able to access these hidden jobs. And there's a point to it. When you talk of hidden jobs, and in the context of South Sudan, you wonder sometimes if networking is not a form of corruption in some ways. And when you're talking of the hidden jobs, there's this aspect of WASPA where you, through the connections, you get to to get a job, for example. But let me ask you this question. Why is networking important in job hunting? Can networks lead to misuse of power and unfairness in recruitment? Because when you go to South Sudan today, sometimes even a job which is posted out there in the newspaper or even on any website, people will say it's already taken. Ana ma indi wasta, ana ma halga wazifa da. I don't have the connection, so I will not get that. So in a way, is there a possibility that networks can lead to misuse of power and unfairness in job recruitment? And there's a sensitive part that I need to bring up, because with us as women, there's this aspect of sexual harassment, whereby you might find yourself being subjected to it in your job hunt. So please, Ms. Bedioto, let us know, what do you think? Why is networking important in job hunting? And how do we avoid the negative aspects that have a tendency of coming into it? Over to you.
Thank you, Onyeth. It is a very complex question, in a sense that networking for me can be done ethically or unethically. So with everything that includes some sort of power, it can be done the right way, or it can be done in an unfair way. So there is a very fair way of utilizing networking when it comes to job hunting. And I've seen it happen multiple times, given I've worked in a large financial bank. I've seen networking get me the job during restructures and during positions that it's very unlikely to find a job, because it is very competitive. So having that extra support, extra access, people knowing of jobs that you have not even been advertised yet can really support you in the job process. So that, in terms of how it's done correctly, it's when, yes, you may, you have to utilize your networks, because working on networks is actually hard to even get there in the first place. So people who utilize networks are the people who are actually always looking at what access they may have, always being very mutual, being very fair in the process. Exactly what my panel members have said. It can be done in a very fair way, and it has a lot of advantages, especially in the job process. And it being done correctly is, yes, you can network, but the job is still being advertised. And yes, you may have access to understanding more about the job and will help you have a better interview, but you still have to be interviewed. So it is, the right ways is that, yes, you can network, everyone can network, and it's accessible to everybody, but you still have to go through a very structured process, and it's all about merit. So merit is being able to consider the right person for the job at the end of the day will get the job. And obviously, if you've done the extra work, you've had access to people who have done that job previously, you may even know the hiring manager. Yes, it will, of course, increase your prospects of getting the job, but it doesn't mean that you are guaranteed the job. Of course, things can go wrong, and this is where the unfair side of networking comes in. And that's when people use their power. Example, if you are the hiring manager, you have the power of choice of being able to pick who is going to be right for the job. And if you are not basing it on merit, which is skills, experiences, who's coming through the job process, yes, some of them have networked, but at the end of the day, it's how they perform on the day of the interview. And there's actually proper assessments, and you actually have to justify each assessment that you have made as to why somebody has gotten the job over the other person. And this is why I'm a big believer of structures and processes that help you, even if you are trying to use your power and trying to put bias in the process, it comes out because there are questions behind your choice. And I think this is where, I know you mentioned the context of South Sudan. I have grown up in Australia, but I do know that one thing, that just doing research on South Sudan and the job process, I do find that what lacks is structure. So there is no basis of understanding why things happen the way that they happened. And this is where things can go wrong. And if you can't look at a structure and go back to why you chose somebody over the other person and why a job has been advertised, but there's already somebody who has the job, that's not structure. That's where power is being used, and that's where the unethical side of networking, favoritism. I know nepotism is huge in South Sudan. Oh, bring on my cousin who has no qualifications at all. That's where bias really comes in. And I think the best way to be able to get away from a lot of that is, yes, you can have networks, but they have to go through the same process just like everybody else. And if they are picked for the role, you have to be able to provide the feedback. And feedback is so important as to why somebody has gone on the role over the other person. So structure is everything. And having even things like moderation panels, people who can be completely not part of the process, but if there seems to be bias in the process, you go to them to understand and do the research behind. Yes, we see bias here. How did it get to where it got to? And they are completely not part of the process. So somebody who doesn't have any, I guess, access to why somebody has gone on the role, they're able to make decisions on anything that has gone wrong as well. So structure is the best way to get away from that unethical side of networking.
Thank you, and I appreciate the fact that you stress the aspect of structure. I think it's important to have structures in place, and also to ensure that these structures are the ones that institutions abide by. I say that because I've been on a lot of panels, I've felt a lot of pressure, but the structure always comes to my rescue because I can always go back and say, the law says this, the rules and regulations say this, and that way, may the best person get the job. And that is what we all aspire for ourselves and for all people who are looking for work. We've been doing a lot of discussions, but the youth component has not yet been properly addressed. And I'm glad to have Ms. Adeng with us. Ms. Adeng was formerly African Union youth volunteer before she became a formal employee of the African Union. So I want to have a different perspective on why networking is important for youth, especially. And I'm stressing this in relation to those who are coming out of school. A lot of people come out of school fresh with no connections and no proper networks that they have established, and would like to know, why do you believe networking is important for youth? And then a second part that I would like you to address is, what is the African Union doing? What policies do they have in place for youth, especially in area of employment? Over to you, Adeng.
Okay, thank you so much, Renate, and thanks a lot for having me here. Yes, youth in Africa, we have a youthful population, and when you're starting a school, you have a certain expectation that when you finish, you will land to a good job or even a great job. So I would like to start with a quote that had been quoted by Mishat. He's saying networking is not only collecting contacts, rather it's about planting relations that you are sure you can harvest later. Because if you are only collecting contacts, it's easy to collect contacts and keep it in your bag or a small purse, and then you don't even contact them back, or you don't even network with them, or you don't even check on them or even ask them for any opportunities. So it's about planting relations. So many of us, of course, when we finish undergrad, or some of us who finish postgrad, you think that papers are everything, and with it you can land a great job. And many also believe that they can grow alone without needing anyone. I'm saying that because when I finished my undergrad, I went immediately to start looking for a job, and I didn't have this thing in mind called networking, because you are not taught in some of the schools. You are not taught about something called networking. So networking, based on my understanding, is building your capital. Yes, by capital, I mean here, it's not only a business capital, but social capital, which as well means social network that you build through people you know, the relationship you form, and the action that you do for each other. For some student or recent graduate, they might not know which field or direction they would like to choose. Therefore, it's important to identify where you can learn to easily network. For example, I started, before starting at the African Union, I was a volunteer at the South Sudan Women Empowerment Network from 2014. I started as a volunteer because I was looking for a job and I couldn't get a proper job that will help me get something onto my CV, because basically you come out of school with an empty CV. You don't have, for example, things that you can put there apart from your degree. So I started volunteering with only transport pay, and then I was okay with it. I learned a lot. I went to different meetings. I went to different events. I was doing I was having a lot of trainings on certain things. Even networking was part of this program. And then I was able to get contacts, and I was able to know many people from different organizations. Those kind of internship, volunteering, or even social work that can be free, also source of where you can start from, because you have to start from somewhere. And then if they offer you something like for free, to do it for free, based on the situation in South Sudan now, I understand that we are going through an economic crisis, but this thing can land you into something great. And also you can network with many people. So networking is important in today's world for business, career hunt, expansion of opportunities. For example, when getting out of school, you will require professional networks that can help you know more of your desired opportunities. Then also, I would like to emphasize that networking has got me to many places through those I have built a network with. So for the AU, moving forward to the next part, the African Union does not necessarily have a policy on employment for youth, but rather it has the Youth Charter, which is a political and legal document that serves as a strategic framework that gives direction to youth empowerment and development at the continental, regional, and national level. The African Youth Charter on Article 15 lay emphasis on sustainable livelihoods and youth employment, which states as following. I will mention just few of it so that we keep on time. Every young person shall have the right to gainful employment. It's not only, this one is not only for the African Union staff, which is the youth at the African Union staff, or the African Union at the African Union, but it's all for the continent, the 55 member states. Every young person shall have the right to gainful employment, and every young person shall have the right to be protected from economic exploitation and from performing work that is likely to be hazardous to or interfere with the young person education. State parties. That means that in every state, the parties shall address and ensure availability of accurate data on youth employment, unemployment, and underemployment, so as to facilitate the prioritization of the issues in National Development Program. Also, they are emphasizing on the state parties shall take all appropriate measures with a view to achieving full realization of this right to gainful employment, and shall, in particular, ensure equal access to employment. I just want to say that this was adopted when the head of the states were available. So that means every state parties or every member state is responsible of getting gainful employment, or even making sure that youth are employed or getting access to certain employment without any kind of corruption or nepotism or any kind of thing. So it is very important to mention the Youth Charter and also refer to it as we empower our youth. So thank you.
Sorry, I was on mute. Thank you, Ading, for that articulate um, e- explanation that you gave on what the EU is doing in relation to the youth and linking it to networking. A very important part that we need to address is on volunteerism. You know, a few days ago, we were having a conversation with my sister, and she was encouraging some young people who were looking for employment that why don't you volunteer? Because it's through volunteering that you can establish those networks that can make a big difference in ensuring that later on you can benefit from networking. So you can volunteer in charities, in community organizations, or even join professional groups like where we are. And even if there's no financial gain to it, the long-term benefit is definitely worth it. So volunteering is also recognized as a valuable work-related experience by a lot of employers. And for the youth, that can always make a big difference in your CV when you add in that you were a volunteer in so many things. Now, coming to Miss Margaret Tabo, I really want to get into this networking. What attitudes are important? You know, what good attitudes do we need to help us strengthen uh, our ability to network, and the qualities like hard work? How can we do it to ensure that we establish proper networks? Can you please give us some tips to our viewers today on what attitudes we need to have? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Agnette, for this introduction. And thanks for all the panelists for their elaborate presentation. What I'd like to say is work on networking means a lot. We've already talked about, almost like the benefits of networking. But when you come to talking about hard work, how does actually hard work help us when we're networking? Like good attitude and hard work. What I would say is with attitude, you have to present yourself as somebody who has a positive kind of energy or look to life, to work, to everything. And hard work, it's not only about you working so hard, like sitting from 8 to 4 p.m., you're working so hard. But the question is, are you working hard productively? It's what matters in when you're networking. I know this helps so much, especially in an office, within the office networking. Um, you know, as I can say, networking is at different levels. So within the office, you still can do networking through your colleagues, your bosses, or your manager, and so forth. So looking at attitude on hard work as good attributes for networking, you should be able to demonstrate that to your colleagues or people who are senior to you. And when they look at your work, and they'll really appreciate it. I was reading a book by somebody called Daniel. He's a rabbi. He's a Jewish rabbi who is a businessman or a business-oriented person. And in his book, he was talking about this person whom he hired and was really working very hard and producing. He was hired as a salesperson, but he was very talented or skilled at producing different graphs. So each time he will do like a mapping of all the partners, that they can reach out to make connections with them. Really very beautiful one, and he's so talented. But the thing is, he is not doing the right job because his job is sales. Sales, that means he has to go out there to look for the people, to look for the market, to go and meet out those deals. So what I'll say is we have to be very strategic when you're working, very hard, make sure you're working very productively, and the attitude that you portray should be that positive one. When you're given work, working so hard doesn't mean you have to take every work assigned to you. There are moments when you feel that you're filled up, respectfully, you can say no. And when you have moments of free time, go out, be proactive, and tell your boss, your manager to say, look, I think I have time on my plate, and I'd be interested to maybe develop my skill in this area. If you're in the business sector, you want to develop your skill maybe in marketing or in branding, or you want to do operations. Be proactive, reach out there, seek for the opportunities within the office, within the organization, and that will really take you far. For example, if I have a staff in the office who is always grumpy, you give little work, the person is already complaining. You would not want to promote this person because that negative energy will circulate and eventually affect everybody in productivity in the office. And that happens a lot, in most work uh, setups. Um, Maybe I want to just move a little bit away from the hard work um, and good attitude within the context of networking. I think I already mentioned about reaching out to your peers or to your managers to make sure you're given extra work to develop yourself further. But again, go out, reach out to people maybe outside the departments, or you can reach out to other organizations, but do that after you have done a personal reflection of what your interests are, what your career path is heading to, so that you identify the right people that you can reach out to and introduce yourself. And once you have got those networks, please and please try to keep in touch. Um, Drop them a message, chat with them, because one thing I should say is that networking is a work in itself. It's a task, it's a living thing. It requires your energy and commitment. So once you have had the opportunity to create a network, nurture it, invest in it, commit to it. And how do you do that? By reaching out, to those people, communicate to them. And in one way, if their support, for example, they shared information with you about a job opportunity, a scholarship, and that information was able to lead you to achieve that or to get that job or the scholarship. Brag about it, send them an email, say thank you for this opportunity you shared with me, and now somebody else have got this opportunity. Be thankful. Um, and then also um, be genuine. Be genuine when you're, interacting with your bosses, because somebody who is not genuine may not get what he wants. Because the mind, we are human beings, we can read when somebody is not genuine. We can read that. And that sends a very negative kind of perception about you. Be genuine when you get yourself into connecting with the people, so that they can be open to you. And there's one thing very critical also that comes up with this networking aspects, in addition to the attitude and hard work. Um, you should not depend on, you know, on that person who is supporting you. Networking, it's a give and take. You know, be able to reach out. For example, if you have a mentor who is helping you or guiding you in your career path, be able to propose or ask the person about the person's interests or how you can be of support to that person, much as the person who is mentoring you might be above you, but try to show interest that you also care about their needs. You also care about their growth and progress. Um, what I would like to say to emphasize is the fact that networking, it may sound very easy again, but it's not, because it requires confidence. um, it requires you to be bold to step out and meet a stranger and smile and say hi and introduce yourself. It's not easy, and that's why it's not like talent. It's a skill which you can learn. So if you put yourself into practicing it, because you cannot talk about networking, it's about actually applying the tips. Go out there, apply the tips, reach out to people. You can even start by going to a restaurant. You enter the restaurant and you find um, somebody sitting alone on a table, and try it out, test. Go to that person and introduce yourself and make a very good remark. Oh, I actually like your shirt. Oh, I like your computer if the person is working. Introduce yourself and say, are you sitting alone? If you don't mind, would you appreciate me to sit by your side? And then if the person says yes, you start a conversation. But if the person says no or turns you down, you lose nothing. But In that way, you have learned one thing, and tomorrow test again. So that is how hard networking can be practically. So what I'm saying is that we just have to step out there and start creating those relationships, maintain them, strengthen them, and then promote them. In addition to our hard work and a good attitude, life can just be seamless. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Margaret. And the take home, aside from having the good attitude and being hardworking, is that come out of your shell. You need to come out more, become more of an extrovert, and ensure that you develop those networks. We are running short of time, but for me, there's a very key part that I have not been able to highlight here, and that is issues to do with women, networking and women. So please, even if I don't ask it in my question, try to relate it to us. This is about us. Please try to bring it out in your answer, how networking is key to women and what are some of the challenges we women face as we go about establishing networks. Now, I would like to come back to Dr. Joy Luba. Why, or rather, what are the challenges affecting South Sudanese medical professionals from establishing functional networks? And here again, I would like to stress on the issue of women within the medical profession, medical profession who are facing difficulties in establishing functional networks. What recommendations can you give for our medical practitioners, especially the female medical practitioners? Over to you, Dr. Joy.
Thank you, Angeth, for that question. You know, women are very few in the field of health in general, and in many other fields, actually. It's just across board. Because of our societies, because of how society views women. And I think for a long time, the girl child has been, you know, deprived of opportunities to further their studies. So we have a lot of young girls and women in South Sudan who reach a certain age and, you know, they are married off, you know. But a number of us, because we had opportunities, maybe in South Sudan, but most of us, I believe, it's outside the country, where we had a platform and were able to go to school, and therefore we have careers today. And I think that's something that's really critical for us, even as we look at networking. How do we address the issues back home? How do we ensure that women come more on the forefront? A number of times for me as a female medical professional, I go to meetings and it's a boardroom of men, and maybe I'm the only young woman. I'm the only woman there, and probably a young woman for that matter. So it's really a challenge, and I think our societal structures contribute to that challenge in networking, where we do not have sufficient opportunities. You know, networking is beyond just the social platforms. We have physical platforms that we can network through, you know, meetings. You know, we network through meetings, and if you don't have the opportunity to have such kind of interactions, then your networking may be limited. And I think another key issue, we women are very unique. We give birth to children. Sometimes we sacrifice our careers because of family. And, you know, you may be pregnant, for instance. That's 9 months, just the pregnancy duration. And you may miss a number of opportunities just because of who you are as a woman. And so I think what our physiology, what surrounds us, our cultures contribute to the extent to which we can network. Literacy, we know that women are less literate, especially in South Sudan. And that too contributes to our ability to network across, you know, social platforms on the internet, through media. And so that creates a whole challenge. Now, just to slightly focus on the health professionals in general, I think one of the key challenges, not just for the health sector, but across other sectors, is diversity. Diversity can be a strength, but it can also be a challenge. And for instance, I mean, most of us have gone to very different medical schools, some in the Western world, some within Africa, some in South Sudan. And so we are coming together in one country. We have grown up in very different systems. Our systems in the country are not too well established. And so that diversity, instead of being a strength, can actually keep us apart if we do not harness it well. And so I think that is a challenge as well as an opportunity. Another key thing is that, networking is something very intentional, and it needs to be participatory. You need to decide you want to be part of this network. You need to decide that you need to participate. And sometimes we look at it and ask ourselves, what do I get out of this? What do I get out of this network? And so if you don't see an obvious objective, if you don't see an obvious goal of this network, you're less likely to be very involved. And so I think sometimes the lack of a clear objective or goal or vision hinders effective networking, even in the health sector and across all other sectors as well. So I would want to really recommend one, is the need to really establish systems. I think that is the baseline for a lot of things. When we have systems in place, when you have structures in place, they provide a foundation for networking. And so that is important in the context of South Sudan. Secondly, I think it's important to really involve policymakers. We may have great ideas, but if we don't have the right people on board, we don't have the people who take the decisions at higher levels, you're likely to be limited on how much you can do, even if you have a network. So it's important to bring the right people on board, the policymakers, people who are strategically placed to bring change in society. And lastly, we can maximize on the existing platforms. This is one platform. We can maximize on this platform. We can build from somewhere. We may not be perfect, but I think we can take small steps, be proactive, and build on what is existing. Thank you again.
Thank you, Dr. Joy. And one takeaway that I take is bringing in the policymakers. And to me, as a woman, I think this is very important. In South Sudan, we talk of 35%, but in a lot of cases, access to those opportunities are not there. And this is simply because we do not have an opportunity to network with the policymakers. So thank you for highlighting that point. And I hope we have some policymakers on board who would be able to take this on as we move forward. Now, Flora, coming back to women, and there was a point we stressed on sourcing funding and showcasing personal brands. Do you believe that some of these can expose women to sexual harassment and even to being vulnerable? Over to you.
Okay, thank you so much for bringing out that question. So, of course, we as women, we tend to be vulnerable in many situations. That's something that comes across everywhere. So when we are trying to network or when we're trying to make our personal brands, we also become vulnerable to people that are trying to help us. So one of the things is you want to build your brand, but people want to take advantage of you, as one of the panelists have already talked about. So the thing with here, I can only talk about my experiences here in diaspora because I have limited access to the experiences back home, although I read them. I find that women can easily be manipulated indirectly without them knowing that they are being manipulated. They find themselves vulnerable because they are desperately wanting to better themselves. So you find yourself, especially with the use of media and things like that, they can manipulate what you showcase as your brand. They can manipulate that, and it can lead you, although it's not like a physical sexual assault, whatever it is, it could be like verbal assault. It could be things that people look at just like a minor joke, someone teasing you in a certain way. You think it's just a normal thing, but these are the things that begin to affect your brand. eventually you begin to lose the respect and the status that you have as you're building your brand. So when we are networking, I hope I'm on the right track. When we're networking, we have to be very vigilant and aware of how people can manipulate us indirectly, because physical assault and sexual assault, that can be seen easily and it can be identified and addressed easily, but the assault to do with mental manipulation, that is something we don't see easily. There's a lot of teasing in community. You can have your higher boss teasing you and you think it's just a minor thing so you can get a promotion in your work or something like that. When you look at men, most of them don't go through that. They have their promotions, they excel, they do their things, they don't have anybody teasing them. But they could tease you how you look. They could tease you, how did you get your degree? You studied for it. They could think, somebody helped you to get where you are, but you worked hard for it. You put yourself out there. You went to source your networking. You worked hard to maintain your networks. You purposely went to achieve those things. But because you're a woman, they think that somewhere someone sweet talked you to get those things, or your father helped you to network you to his boss or his friend, or your brother, has a company and knows a friend. But you did all those things. So that's the thing we women need to become aware of. We need to become very vigilant and protecting our minds. Our minds, we need to, the same way we protect our bodies, we have to protect our minds from mental assault through flirtatious ways and all those things. We have to protect that and have a border on that. We have to train our girls to understand what it is, because a lot of younger girls, as they're growing up, they don't know these things. They think somebody is complimenting me, I'm doing so well, but slowly somebody is a predator entering into your mindset and damaging you. At the end, when you have an achievement, they will think it was because of that person. That's the reason why you had that achievement. So our networks can easily damage us when it comes to, sexual assault, although it's physical or non-physical. Those networks, especially if they're male networks, we have to be very careful. We have to be very professional with them. You see, the same way men are professional with themselves, we women, we have to be very professional. Like here in overseas, we can look in the eye of a man and we talk. I remember when I went to South Sudan, I had an incident. It was just a simple traffic incident. I could not look in somebody's eye and tell them what I want to say before they want to slap me. So these are the things we have to really be very careful of in our workplaces, even in our communities, our community networks, church networks, career and professional networks. We constantly have to be vigilant at protecting our mindsets, obviously also at protecting our bodies. You cannot be giving your body to achieve things or giving your space. I always call your personal space is your area where you're building your brand. You have to protect your brand and your space. So you don't let people enter your space because they're going to give you a promotion or they're going to link you with other networks. You have to protect that space. You have to be very professional by being very articulate. You have to communicate. That's the other thing about South Sudanese women, which I really wanted to talk about. South Sudanese women, most of us, we need to learn how to communicate in a very assertive way. You don't need to be very, when men around and we just become very low. We have to be very assertive the same way they are. Communicate it, set your boundaries when you're networking. They need to know your boundaries. Even if you come to a place you're looking nice and all these things, there is a certain way they can compliment you without it being a sexual compliment. They should compliment how you look today, how you achieve, but it should not go to a point where you feel very uncomfortable. So we need to watch out for those boundaries and we need to be able to know how to utilize them.
Thank you very much, Flora Mihepai, for that very wonderful explanation. I believe this is a very sensitive topic, and especially in this year, there's been a lot of talk on girls taking back their power and being able to to deal with some of these issues, which in our society is unfortunately not accepted. But this is the time for us to be able to be there for each other through these networks that we're establishing and letting our sisters know that there's nothing wrong in speaking up for themselves. Thank you. Now, Ms. Betty Otho, in the introduction, I mentioned that you are the founder of DIFTAL. Maybe you can tell us more about your organization, which is doing a very important function of linking minorities up with job opportunities. What have you achieved so far? And how has networking helped you in achieving what you have achieved thus far? We would appreciate if we can hear statistics also, because it would be part of celebrating your success. Thank you.
Thank you, Onyeth. So yes, I have launched a very, I guess, my own little baby, me and my co-founder, Lorna Deng, in Australia. So it's a social enterprise. So it's not a not-for-profit, it is a social enterprise. It is called DIFTAL, and it is a online job platform that connects candidates from underrepresented minority backgrounds to inclusive employers. And I'd like to really stretch on the inclusive, so not just any employer, inclusive employers who actually want to have that diverse talent coming through their pipeline. So we only just launched in July this year, right in the midst of COVID. So very brave move. But we essentially launched because we knew it was a very difficult time for candidates, especially who are from an underrepresented background in the midst of COVID, because they were losing jobs. So we're already vulnerable before, add the pandemic to it. We found that it was crucial for us to still launch, because we only launched for the fact that our candidates are the ones who are coming out to us saying that they need help and they need networks, essentially, to be connected to networks, to be connected to the right organizations, and to have more access to opportunities, which we all know we all got in a very difficult way. So me and my co-founder found ourselves 2 years or about a year after we got our degrees, we weren't able to we didn't have the networks. You know, we're South Sudanese girls in Australia doing what we think we should be doing, which is graduating and thinking that the world is going to be our oyster, opportunities will just be flying at us. But we all know that's not the reality, and it all hits you quite quickly when you are in the job market and realizing actually there are a lot of barriers to finding jobs. It's a lot of systemic bias in the recruitment process. Firstly, your name is biased all the way to when you're in the interview as a Black woman, there's bias there, all the way to when you do get the job, there's more bias. So we, having worked in HR, me and my co-founder, we realized that we now understand the processes and we have to play it forward. We have to support other people who may not understand or have access to understand the recruitment process, which is why we decided to open DIFTAL. So it has only been around for about 3 to 4 months. Our talent pool, so the candidates that we have on our job platform, is sitting at about 50. So we're very proud of that, because it takes a very long time to build that talent pool. And we have a very diverse range of professionals, all the way from lawyers to people who want to work in professional services, all the way to new graduates who are just trying to get their foot in the door. And in terms of employers, so they're the people that obviously will come with the job opportunities. We, as of a month ago, have about 4 jobs that are now live on our platform. And in 2021, we have a lot of interest of more employers who want to actually create jobs on our platform, which will allow more opportunities for our candidates. So very exciting time for us. It is, again, a social enterprise. So we are really looking to just support our candidates with networking, essentially. We got to where we are through networking. So even starting a business as 2 South Sudanese women in Australia would not have happened if I didn't work in the corporate Australian network. And I use my networks. I have networks to recruiters, executives, just because I worked in the corporate space, and I want to really talk to people about starting a business without networks is very hard. So you can't just start a business off of passion, unfortunately. Really build your networks, go out there, understand what you want to do, get the job, speak to people. And then once you understand all of that, you look around and you will build networks just based on your own journey, and then start looking at, okay, now I can build a business. And you go, wait a minute, who can I speak to who has built a business? Who can I speak to who will connect me to other people? And we found, because we've got, between the two of us, nearly 8 years of work experience, they were the same networks that I went back to when I wanted to open a business. And they opened up a lot of opportunities for me. So I definitely got a lot of allyship. So men really helped me through opening my business. And we know us women, we don't have access to those opportunities. And guess what? The people who have the power for a very long time and up until today are men. So I encourage men to open up the platforms for us women, because we need you. We're your mothers, sisters, cousins, and we need you to be really advocating for us in a lot of these platforms and saying, why don't we have a woman in part of our board? Why can't I help a woman get her next promotion? And without you, I would continue to be blocked from a lot of these platforms and opportunities. So I urge a lot of men who are listening, we need you as our allies. And I know a lot of you will definitely speak for us. Times are changing and we're forcing our way in anyway, but we don't want to force our way. You've got to open the door for us and let us really access those opportunities. And I have to say, a lot of men have helped me through my opening up my own business. It was a lot of men who obviously are in those spaces already, but they opened the doors and helped us get the right networks to start our business. So we're really excited about where it can go.
Thank you. Thank you. I did see a documentary once about DIFTAL, and it was only when you mentioned your partner that I realized this was the organization that I watched the show about. So congratulations on your achievement thus far. Next, I would like to ask Adeng to tell us more about Opportunities for South Sudan initiative. Can you please let us know what it's all about, what you have achieved so far? Over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Opportunities for South Sudanese initiative. The idea came, let me say, I salute Madam Mrs. Paleki Matthew Obur, who was my the director of SPEN, South Sudan Women Empowerment Network, and direct supervisor. She used to, send opportunities to all the staff, and then all of us some of us actually end up applying for this kind of opportunities, trainings, and such of some of the trainings, some of the workshops, some of the things that really benefited us. So it was something that I have actually taken from her, something positive that I've taken from her that has even brought me all the way here. So I would like to say that Opportunities for South Sudan is also the reason why I created this platform. I actually wanted to register it this year, but because of COVID, it has really affected the registration. But I have a group on Facebook that is has like around 2,000 members so far, who are accessing job opportunities, trainings, and so many things. And also we started a discussion during COVID-19 season, but something came up, then we stopped, but we will start again. So it came as the motivation behind that is that I was, at some point I was looking for a job, looking like it was too much hard work. I was looking for a job, moving here in South Sudan, and I could not even get a job until I landed into this volunteering experience. I mean, a position at the South Sudan Women Empowerment Network, and also now I started as I finished the volunteering program as the African Union, which landed me to a job. So I said, why can't I just have a platform where people will access such opportunities? Because some of us may give up in the process of looking for a job, hunting for a job. So I started this platform in 2017, and the vision and the mission was to see, the vision is to see South Sudanese empowered, transformed, developed, and well represented worldwide by grabbing every possible opportunity. By saying represented worldwide is that every South Sudanese who goes like they go from South Sudan to another country, for example, to attend the training, they end up, they represent actually the country, they represent the nation. And from there, people get to know about South Sudan. And also you get to get more skills that you can allow other people in South Sudan to benefit. So this is the vision of allowing people to have these such opportunities. And by that, I would like to say that a lot of people has benefited from this platform. Like, for example, I advertise any kind of jobs, I advertise any kind of training, I advertise any kind of workshops that can benefit a lot of young people, or even people who are already like uh, above like the youth age. So for example, Chevening, I remember 4 applied and selected through the platform because some of them I said, okay, I got this opportunity and I applied and I got it through your platform. And then I remember also African Union, especially African Union Youth Volunteer Corps, because I was part of it. I was the batch 6 in 2015, got deployed 2017, and I finished 2018 and got hired immediately after I finished my volunteering program at the African Union. So this one, 6 has got accepted so far through the platform, and many people applied because I also help on mentoring, I also help on application forms, and I also help on making sure that this thing reach the ground, South Sudan, and also through iRadio or any kind of radio. I mean the media. What is it? Media. I mean media system, anything like a radio or even TV, or even I try my best to allow people to know about this African Union Youth Volunteer Corps. So 6 got accepted, and some of them are already deployed at the headquarters. One was deployed at the Pan-African Parliament in South Africa, and he finished his program and he went back home. And one a lady supposed to be deployed at the office of the Secretary General, but she ended up withdrawing the offer because she got a scholarship for masters. And then one supposed to be deployed at the strategic and planning office department in the AU headquarters as well. And then one is already in trade and development, and one is in the chairperson office. All these things. It was very easy for some people to get because you understand the language of what they can write in the cover letter and what they can write in the application. Why can't you try and teach them on how they can apply and all these things and mobilize for more youth to join the program? This is a way to get into the AU. As for the YALI program, Young African Leadership Initiative, the East African part, I also helped mentoring some of the people through also the platform and even personally. And the Nest in South Sudan was the place where we meet, and we help them to how to apply and the language they can use. And also opportunities for South Sudanese initiative has partnered with the Ministry of Youth in Egypt, because there are specific people that I know there. They asked me to nominate certain young people to go and attend programs, and also some of the people who are professional, highly professional, I nominate them also to go to the program. And also sometimes I go and I attend as to let the organization be known and what they can offer South Sudan and all this. So this is what we are doing currently. And also I urge you to join the group. It's called Opportunities for South Sudanese Initiative, and you will learn a lot, and there's a lot of kind of programs and opportunities that it can benefit you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Adeng, for educating us about what you're doing through Opportunities for South Sudan initiative. It has been truly a very instrumental platform through which I know for a fact a number of people have been able to access opportunities, not just within the work force, but even within institutions of higher learning. So as we go forward, our focus has been mainly on networking, but now as we are almost concluding our discussions, I would like to ask questions to do with challenges and what recommendations you can make for us. So, Ms. Margaret, what challenges do you think people are facing today in getting jobs, promotions, and scholarship opportunities, especially in South Sudan? And do you have any recommendations moving forward? this would also be your concluding remarks. So I hope you can package it all. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Agnes. I want to start by highlighting some of the challenges that women particularly face when networking in different networking spaces or opportunities. I would like to refer to this study. Studies have shown that when women engage in networking, really their chances of growing in their career increases. But again, in engaging in these networkings, they face a lot of challenges, and some of them include like women being mostly really the caregivers or spending a lot of time with families, taking care of the families, and that leaves them with really very little time to engage in networking activities. And another barrier also is the lack of role models or mentors, especially mentors who are women. Because when we are networking, we need to reach out to people who are beyond us, who are high ranking, so we can gain from experience, from their support, from their influence, from their networks. So with this, the lack of mentors, and frankly speaking, most of the influential people, they are men, people who have power, they are men. And when it comes to sometimes building these networks with people who are influential, one thing is it's so hard to access them to start building those relationships. And secondly, some potential men who may want to support women may find it uncomfortable because of some challenges and that actually affects the ability of women to really connect and network very effectively. And that also affects the ability for women to gain from networking or from building those networks that can help them, especially people who have influence and power. Now, coming to some of the challenges that people face in South Sudan today in getting jobs or promotions or scholarships, there are many which I can refer to. One is, for example, the tendency for people to want to get jobs in areas, that they trained for. For example, if I trained as a IT, I just want to work as an IT, or I want to do something that I love. And in the context of today, that will not serve you well. You have to be open-minded, be able to start from somewhere. When the opportunity avails itself, take it with two hands, like Deng Lik, took it up. After graduating, she started with a voluntary job, and she went on to working as a volunteer also in African Union, and now she has a full-time job and founded an organization. So we need to be able to support, especially the young people, and give them that guidance. And what I should say is that that line of thinking that I want to do the job I've been trained for or what I love comes from school. Most of the schools I know in East Africa, particularly Uganda, the teaching is not very practical in a way. You're taught very general. You are not taught about being flexible, so that when you go out of studies, your mind is always focused on, I'm trained as a teacher, so I have to find a job as a teacher. So what we should be doing is really try to find a way and support, especially the young people, through these mentorship programs, going to schools and try to give them a very good kind of career guidance. Another challenge why it's difficult for people to get jobs related to, again, it's related to the tendency to what we want to do, but also about the lack of technology or access to it. Most of our people, don't have the skills, let me say computer skills, and even it's hard to access internet where you can get most of the information posted online. Yes, there are some recruiting agencies, organizations that do post job openings outside on their board, but very few of them would accept also like hard copies where you can deliver. So that poses challenge to most people who may not access, who don't have access to the digital advantage. Another challenge that's affecting people from getting jobs is the culture. Um, our culture sometimes, the South Sudanese culture kind of affects us in a way that we tend to look down on certain jobs, or when we want to act nice, we feel like we are stooping very low. And that does not really help us when we're trying to look for jobs. And especially for us, the women, um, let's say our culture affects more of us, the women, especially when it comes to getting jobs. For example, if you're a married woman, you're trying to get a job, or when you get the job, you might find that your husband might not allow you to go and work in a field-based location because you will be far away from the family and nobody will support you taking care of the kids. So that also limits the opportunity or ability for us, especially the women, to get jobs. um, I would like to talk about the fresh graduates. For example, if young girls coming out of college and they don't have that experience, because we don't have enough apprentices or internship opportunities. I know that I already highlighted that in the first point, which regards to lack of career guidance. But that is also related to after graduating, do you have an opportunity to gain experience, valuable work experience to look through voluntary work or through apprentices? So that affects a lot. Another challenge um, is, let me say, the government failure to create jobs. And that has translated into the NGOs being the main employers, you know. And the NGOs being the main employers, there's a lot of, perception about corruption going around. And I would like to refer to what is going on right now in Bentiu, where some NGO staffs are being told to leave working in that specific area in unity, because the people from there believe that it is through corruption, through the HRs in the recruitment systems that put them to get those jobs which the local people should have got, the local people that come from that specific area. So because the government now is the government role of really creating jobs and creating a very good environment to allow private sector to thrive, to employ more people is very limited. More jobs are being now, provided by the NGOs, and that it becomes very difficult for the government to control or to regulate the employment practices. Yes, I know there are policies in place, but the thing is, how is the enforcement or regulation of these employment practices? That to me poses a challenge, especially for the young people who don't have very good experience, especially the women. And yeah, I talked about the digital skills, which is a big barrier also for women, especially when they're trying to get jobs. And any recommendations going forward? I still would say be proactive. Be proactive. You just have to get yourself out there and ask for the jobs. And this is what is very interesting about being proactive. If I am a recruiter or if I'm giving out scholarships and they see somebody reaches out to me to ask for opportunities, I'm looking for a job, or I really want to do a master's degree, but I don't have, money to sponsor myself. That creates in my mind that this gives the impression that this person is very looking forward. He's very, or she is very motivated. So it creates that kind of a pleasurable person. Especially for us, the women, it's good if we can reach out to people, be proactive, and be open-minded, be open to opportunities. That will really pave your way. And then let's talk about um, job fairs, especially for the young women. If you can really go out there, try to identify um, networking opportunities, including attending job fairs, because with job fairs, you get to express yourself better to potential employers or to potential donors or sponsors. And that also gives you an opportunity to learn, gives you an opportunity to learn what you can do in the real world of looking for jobs or for scholarships. Another recommendation to address some of these challenges is joining professional groups. We already talked about that in our discussions throughout the. It's very important if you can start out maybe with alumni group, people you studied with, or you have professional groups. If you're a lawyer or a doctor, you can join that group of lawyers or doctors, because in these groups, you can learn a lot, you can get information, you can get even support in terms of recommendation, in terms of advice that can help you to draft your application better. And even financially, sometimes if you cannot afford internet and you're part of that professional network, I'm sure somebody may say, I can help you to get an internet so you can apply for this job. In conclusion,
thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Margaret. Okay. In the interest of time, because we are running out of time, can you mute Miss Margaret? Yes, in the interest of time and to give an opportunity to hear from the other panelists, their concluding remarks, I would like to move on to Miss Betty Otho. If possible, Miss Betty Otho, just kindly present in 2 to 3 minutes the challenges facing youth and women as they search for jobs, despite the fact that they have qualifications, and just a few recommendations on how they can move forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Anya. I think Margaret's actually covered a lot of the challenges. So the only one I'd probably outline is one that has got to do with confidence. There is a lot of research around women feeling that they need to be able to do everything in that particular job advertisement. So we need to feel like we can do nearly 100% of the job before applying for a job. So I think for women specifically, one of the challenges, and research has told us this, is that women don't actually apply for jobs that they are very much capable of doing unless they feel like they can do it at 100%. Men are the complete opposite, and men would look at a job advertisement and go, oh, I can do 60% of that. The rest I'll learn on the job, and they're applying for jobs for their next career opportunity quite easily. So I want to encourage women in terms of those challenges that you don't need to be able to do every aspect of the job. If you can do at least 70% of that job, the rest you can learn on the job. So I think the challenge for me there for women is confidence, feeling that we need to be able to do everything, and putting a lot of pressure on ourselves and feeling that we're not able to actually utilize this opportunity. We're not going to go out for that promotion. We're not going to go out for that next job because we feel that we aren't capable of doing it. We need to really change that mindset. So I do encourage a lot of women to really look at internally into their confidence and what they can and cannot do. And also just maybe even take a bit of that male mindset and go, you know what, I'll learn the rest on the job. And that's most jobs, you need to actually find the challenging aspect of it. And a lot of skills you can learn on the job. So I encourage a lot of women to be looking at that. And I guess for youth, what comes across for a lot of our candidates through the DivTal platform is that a lot of youth aren't very good at talking about their transferable skills. So the definition of transferable skills is any skill that you've ever done. So even if you've worked in fast food, you've worked in aged care, you've done labor work, all of that is accounted as skills. skills to do with customers, skills to do with just even life experience is a skill. So I encourage a lot of youth to really look at anything that they've ever, which is why it's really important what Adeng said, what Margaret said, and the rest of the panelists around volunteering. Any work experience is good work experience, but the most important thing is being able to articulate that. So understanding what transferable skills you've learned from even a volunteer job. Was it that you've dealt with stakeholders? Was it that you dealt with customers? Being able to portray that in your application is really important. And the last thing I'd probably say for both is that the job market is very competitive. We have access to information very easily now. So people are very good at a lot of things, and people are constantly upskilling. So you really need to, if you're looking for that job, I want to be very truthful to tell you that it's not easy. You can't just wake up and say, I have my degree, why can't I get the job? It's not enough. You're actually competing with people who have done volunteer work, who have been leaders, have created their own organizations, and that's the reality of the job market. So I encourage you, if you are trying to get into the job market, to realize it is competitive, and if you really want to be competing with the rest of the people who are seen as strong candidates, you need to be doing all the extracurricular stuff that we've spoken about today, which is volunteering experience, getting in the right professional networks. You need to be doing all of that. And that's just my little reality check that it's not an easy process. And actually, it's quite a competitive process. So that's my tip, and in a very fast way. But I encourage you to keep up the confidence and really look within yourself and be ready to really put it all out there, and you'll definitely find success. And if you're being rejected for a role, it may not be the right role for you anyway. So keep going and question the organizations as well. Don't ever feel that an organization, you're like, please give me a job. You need to be asking the right questions of organizations. Are you inclusive? How will you develop me? How will I get my next role? What will you give me as a woman? What will you give me as a mother who has 5 kids to look after? How will you help me to succeed in this role? And you have a right as the candidate to ask a lot of questions of your employers. So go into that process very aware as well. But I wish you the best of luck.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Next, Mihipai, I would like to hear some concluding remarks from you. Over to you.
Sorry, I turned off the camera. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the challenges that women are facing, especially in the diaspora. Things that I've noticed and things we've been discussing in the communities I'm involved in. And in relation to networking, finding employment and belonging in the society and fully participating in society. Obviously, one of the things, I will just put it straight away first and foremost, because there's no need beating around it. A lot of women are facing things to do with prejudice, things to do with segregation and racism when it comes to going for employment. Obviously, they are struggling with that because we are in a different environment and we are trying to compete with people in this environment, and we are trying to compete with a multicultural environment. So where we're living, it's not just the Sudanese. We have other migrants from other places. We have the owners of the land, and then we have all the Europeans and all the other people. So there's a lot of segregation and racism that we're facing when you have to network. So what I can tell the women out there, and I really wanted to emphasize this on this panel, is it is a fact of life that there is segregation, but we cannot continue to hide from it. We have to live within it. We have to find a way to work within the system. So the way that I always tell the groups that I talk to and mentor is, I tell them is, we need to stop feeling like victims all the time. We need to stop having a victim mentality. So once you start to stop being a victim, you will begin to break the barriers and the boundaries, because you're going to be very, very positive. You're going to go through very positively. You will use all your weaknesses as a strength. We are migrants, we are refugees, but that's not who we are. It's just situation that made us to become like that. So you need to use things that are greater than that and speak up about it, and then go in the system and tell them, this is what we brought to your country and this is what we're going to contribute, but we need you to give us this in order for us to become this. So that's the thing I need people to understand. We should stop being victims, although we are victims of circumstances. That's the first thing. Now, the second thing I want people to understand with the challenges is publicity. When it comes to networking, it's also, there's a high publicity involved around it. So your branding and the public image you're giving is really important in either making you or destroying you. So we have to be very protective of it, especially on the use of media and social media and all those platforms, how we present ourselves. Bad publicity can destroy you in 1 second. All the good publicity that you built up over 10 years can be killed in 5 seconds because of a media post. So we need to be very careful of that, what we present on a media. Now, the other thing also, which I want to tell the women here in diaspora and also our women back home, is we have challenges because we do not put ourselves out there. If you want to achieve anything, you must put yourself out there. You have to go after it. You have to go and achieve it. You have to go look for it. You have to go find it. You have to learn. You have to become educated. You have to not just going to university. You can go to university, but I tell a lot of women is I understand you have challenges to learn to go to university. But if you can't go to university, why don't you just go to a college, a TAFE? Why don't you do a small course, a training that will help you to find a job, and then you can build your experiences slowly by slowly. Not everyone has the capacity to go and have a very strong degree or higher learning. It's challenging to study, to write thesis and all these things. It's quite challenging to do research. But if you can do a small training and build yourself, you can become better in your own way, in your own hierarchy. So that's one of the things which I'm telling them. You cannot limit your possibilities just because you did not have that. And then the other challenge is resources. I know it's difficult to find resources, especially funding and all these things, but you need to go and ask people, how do you write an application for funding? Look at the application, read it carefully, what they're looking for, and then address it based on that. If you don't know how to address the criteria for the funds, go to somebody who can. So at the end of the day, you'll get your resources so you can use it within your community to build yourself or within whatever you want to do. You want something, do whatever means you can. Positive means. Don't use a negative means to get it. Use a positive means to get it. Go to the women who know what to do. It's comfortable to work with women. You're probably going to be a little bit safer. Go to the women, ask them. And if there are men out there, also approach the men. Ask them, how do you do these things? You have to use all the resources you have to get what you want. And then finally, the other thing is also, everyone has touched about it. You have to be completely and utterly with a positive mental mindset to achieve anything in this world. You have to have a very high self-esteem. You have to believe in what you want to achieve. And once you have that kind of level of esteem and positive mindset, no matter how much setback you get all the time, you will easily pick up yourself and overcome your challenges. And once you overcome your challenges, you can build yourself, you can build your networks, and most importantly, you can build an absolutely fantastic brand. And once your brand is solid, you will not struggle because people will come find you. You don't need to go and find them. They will find you. They will say, look, I want that girl because she has what I'm looking for. So that's what I want to say. Just be positive, have self-esteem, look for the right networking and right resources.
Thank you, Ms. Mihepai. Next, I would call upon Ms. Adeng Lake for her concluding remarks. Over to you.
Thank you so much. All the recommendation has already been said, but I would like to just touch on the challenges that we find, the challenges facing youth of today in getting jobs. The challenges in South Sudan are even more than the opportunities, but when you keep a positive mindset, you might end up landing into something good. So number one challenge can be unadvertised position, as been said, because some jobs, you get some jobs, usually you hear from somebody that there is a job that is advertised in this company or this organization. It is actually based on rumors. Some of them are based on rumors. So in this kind of thing, you have to keep looking for a job. Don't even say, okay, this job might not be for me. If you find it on the board or something where people go and check for the jobs, this job might not be for me, but I will give up, I will not apply, I might not even get a job, on all these things. Just keep a positive mindset and say that, yeah, I will get a job, I will keep searching, I will not stop, I will volunteer, I will do internship, and if South Sudan cannot offer me this, I will go to another country. Look for a job, even before you go, even look for a job, and you might find something. It's not like it is difficult to move from one country to another, and even getting a very good job that can really help you sustain, build your skills, build your experience, and even help you financially. So the second challenge can be slow job growth economies, and also know who. For example, in I heard a lot of things. I was even saying that to many people that before I get a job, before I land into a job, you have to know somebody to get a job. Actually, it's not like that. It is like that in some of the organizations, and sometimes you might get a job that needs your skills. Don't use this one as an excuse that you need to know somebody to get a job. Don't use it as an excuse. Get to meet people, network with people, and I'm sure when, for example, they are looking for a certain skills or somebody who can deliver certain job, they might end up calling you and telling you, for example, oh, please can you go through the interview, and or please can you apply for this kind of job. And if you get rejected, do not take it personally, because for example, I got rejected from the African Development Bank last week, and I was laughing. My friend were telling me, Adeng, why are you laughing? I said, my friend, I've been receiving certain emails, and I'm happy that I received a rejection letter, because this rejection letter shows that they have seen my application. Because some of the organization, they don't even send you a rejection email or rejection letter. They don't even do that. So get rejected. One day you might land into something that will help you, or even you might even you can be an outstanding candidate or applicant, and you might get a job that really, you competed with other people. Rejection doesn't mean that you won't succeed at all. The other challenge that we have in South Sudan is skills mismatches. Usually there are some skills that, for example, I would like to emphasize on the part that as exaggerated years of experience required from youth. I am the kind of person, when I see 10 years experience, 7 years experience, as long as I see that there's something that in the requirement that I can do, I don't even care about the years of experience. I just apply. Application actually become part of my life. Like even as I'm working now, there's some kind of, jobs, there are some kind of jobs that will help you develop in your career. So you keep applying, get to ask people who are in the field. For example, I'm saying Madam Angep is in field of human resource. Ask her, what is the gap, like, where did I go wrong in my application? For example, you're applying for something, send your cover letter, send your resume, ask Ms. Margaret, in your field, please help me, I want to apply for this one, how can I do that? Betty, everyone in the platform right now, you can ask them from your network if they can help you. Get to network and get to learn from other people. Keep applying and applying and applying for jobs, even everywhere. Syria, Yemen, some countries that even you think that you cannot apply for, apply. You might learn something from there. And also, if you have a chance to do your second degree, or even third or fourth or fifth, please do it. Even if Juba University is open now, get the chance, apply there and get your degree. And this thing will help you, because believe me, when you leave South Sudan, you will know that there's a lot of competition outside there. You might come with your bachelor degree and say, yeah, I have it all. Please, that is not all in other countries. That is not all in some other countries. Please get license as well. Get other degrees as well. It will help you. It might even grow you personally. Even if you don't have a chance to leave to another country to study, please also do distance learning. Learn, keep learning, don't stop. So this is the kind of advice that I can give. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Deng. Now I would like to come to the last speaker in our panel, and that is Dr. Joy Luba for her concluding remarks and also words of encouragement. I think I have learned a lot from all the panelists who spoke at length about the challenges, but more than that, they took it an extra step by offering possible recommendations on how we can establish networks, maintain them, and grow. So, Dr. Joy Luba, your concluding remarks and words of encouragement. Thank you.
Thank you, Angeth, and thank you, my fellow panelists. I look at networking similar to the human body. You know, every part of the human body is important. And unless it is networked, in a sense, it cannot function normally. So I believe that every single person has an intrinsic value. We may have been shaped differently by our environment, by the opportunities that we have, but intrinsically, every human being has a value. And so that is why networking is critical, because we are able to tap into what we do not have within ourselves and to ensure that we are able to deliver on different fronts. For instance, in this panel, we come from very diverse backgrounds, very diverse educational backgrounds and different exposures, but we have benefited from each other. I've learned a lot about human resources. I've learned about volunteering, entrepreneurship, which if I were to look at just my academic qualifications, I would think that I have what it takes, but that is not true. And so I think coming to that realization is really important, that knowledge is not vested in one person. Knowledge is actually collective and communal. Secondly, I would like to highlight that really our diversity is our strength. And especially for South Sudanese, we have very many challenges. We have issues around tribalism, nepotism, but you know, growing up in very different environments and coming to work together. But I would like to say that really let's harness that diversity and make it a strength and use it to take forward our nation and us as women. We have a lot of skills in diaspora, and I think we need to tap into those skills and utilize it for our country. And lastly, I would like to encourage all women. We face so many challenges in life. We face many physiological challenges, but I think if we can overcome, women are resilient. Generally, women are resilient. And so we just need to take a more assertive nature. We constitute almost 50% of the population. So we have a value in our society. We can play a role. And above all, we can learn from each other. We can tap into the existing capacities and be of encouragement to other women. So I'd like to encourage those of us who have taken steps and progressed in our careers, in our lives. Let's be role models to young women who are coming up so that they too can have an impact in their families, in their societies, and in the nation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Joy Luba. Thank you very much, Adeng, Margaret, and Betty, and also Mihipai, who had to leave us due to another commitment. I believe today we have learned a lot from this session. We have talked on the importance of mentors, role models, volunteerism, involvement of policymakers, support from our male counterparts, who I believe also are part of our conversation today, being proactive, joining professional groups. It's very, very important for us to go that extra mile and try to be part of different networks that are out there, having the right attitude and working hard. So there are many, many, many points that have come out through our discussions. However, time is not in our favor. So as we conclude our session for today, I would like to take this opportunity to thank first the panelists for your time and being willing to share your experiences with all our audiences the world over. I would like to thank UN Women for supporting us in a big way today. I believe two of you are working, in fact, participating from their office And that to me is a sign of their commitment towards supporting South Sudanese women for them to keep their office open over the weekend. So thank you, UN Women, for this tremendous support. I would like to thank the organizing committee. There's a lot of background work that goes into what we presented today, and we appreciate the work Aisha and the team are doing to ensure that we have these sessions continuously. So we thank you all, our supporters in the background. And last but not least, I would like to thank the audience, the viewers who have tuned in for the past 2 hours to listen to us. I hope this has been a fruitful discussion for you. And I look forward to going back to the Facebook page to see if there are any questions you might have raised that we have not answered. I would encourage all the panelists to take time to try and address the questions that our viewers have brought up here. So as a parting shot, I would just like to say, networking is not who you are. No, networking is not who you know, it is who knows you. So let's just think of it in that way. The person who knows you is what networking is all about. And always remember, your net worth is your networking. So please, ladies, continue networking. And we look forward to seeing you next week on a different topic. Thank you. Good morning, good evening, and good night to all our viewers the world over. Thank you very much.